All right, I think it's recording. Okay, so where we left off is we have our two lots. Lot 4 on the right and lot 5 on the left. And lot 5 has a driveway on the front, right across here with the stairway to the door, and then a driveway on the side into the garage. This front driveway connects to the existing roadway that runs along the bottom here, right at the start and at the end. And so we've created a profile for this driveway. It's this one. Yeah. Where it starts and ends, and we added PVIs, and then we went through the nightmare of relabeling all this stuff so it said the right text with the edit label text. And then we did the same thing for the driveway going into the garage. So it comes down and then goes up 2% into the garage. And these driveways, if they needed more detail, this is where I would draw in with polylines right in here, the more detail. Add with multi-liters, the more detail. And then, but for what we need, this is good. And then we wanted to start our quarter model running through the driveways from start to finish and start to finish. But in order to do that, we needed a sub-assemblies. Assemblies and sub-assemblies. And so we created a cross-section of our roadway called driveway no slope, where we started on it, and then we ran out of time. And when we opened this up, normally what would happen is I would have my tool palette all set up. So if I come in here, and on the top there's this corridor button. This is where you can access a lot of the corridor menus in this corridor area right here. And there's this sub-assembly tool palette. But we don't get our sub-assemblies, and this might be the case depending on your setup. So what you have to do, let's see if I get this right, is you have to, there it is, right-click on the tool palettes, and you click on Civil Imperial Sub-Assemblies. And you'll see a variety of different sub-assemblies here. Civil 3D, they design corridors ultimately for large-scale highway production. So you have things that we would never really see and use, like, let's see, do they have it? They have Jersey barriers. Where is it? Yeah, here's a basic barrier. Here's noise barriers. I'm trying to consolidate all this stuff into one really easy Goldsmith palette. But I'm also trying to do a bunch of other stuff, so.
Well.
Sorry, Mary. So it'll come when it happens. Until then, what I would recommend for you to do is either ask me what you want to use, or write it down, or somehow remember it. There's three basic ones that I ever use for modeling. I think actually 4. There's this urban sidewalk. It's very handy because you can specify slopes and it doesn't have any thicknesses. You know, if you guys wanted really complicated subgrade analysis, we can use corridor models and set the thicknesses for the paving sections. So that way you can create a subgrade off the bottom of the paving section. But
which tab is it under?
this is curbs. And then in the lanes tab, thank you for asking, there's lane outside super. This is how I model drive any kind of roadway. So I'll click on the subassembly that I want, and then I'll just click on my center point or center line right here, and see it'll add it on that side, on the right side. And if I want it on the left side, I just click on the left side of this circle over there. Now in our case we don't have curb, but if we wanted to have curb, there's also this urban curb gutter general. So I could come in here and I can add my urban curb gutter. And see, you can get pretty detailed with these. Here's my urban sidewalk. And then
Does it come with just a standard width?
this comes with standard width, yeah. Now, if I click on these, sometimes it might be hard to see, but it'll say over here dimension A through dimension G. And I can't ever seem to remember which one corresponds to what. So my favorite button in AutoCAD, which works pretty well, is F1. It's a really handy button in case you're not aware of it. And there's this urban curb and gutter general. I can just type in here, urban curb gutter general. And look, everything I need to know how it works. So they have very detailed documentation on all these subassemblies. So if you're using corridor modeling, I would recommend to look through their documentation as you're using it, just be more familiar. Sometimes you're going to need to do something really strange, like there's all sorts of daylight options. And occasionally maybe you're going to have to bench with some kind of distance condition and a certain height condition. Like with Avalon, we had some really complicated benching that we had to do. So you'll have to use one of the ones that you never use. And then you'll have to know how to use it. But until then, what I would recommend is just use your outside super lane, urban curb gutter general, urban sidewalk, and then I think the daylight we're looking for.
What do you do for planar strips?
Planar strips, the urban sidewalk has an inside and an outside what's called bullard width. So if I wanted a planar strip, I can hit 2 here, and there's my planar strip. And if I wanted an outside planar strip, I can hit 4 here. But generally, truth be told, Mark, if I have a planar strip from curb to sidewalk, I'll just model it as sidewalk all the way through. Just because what tends to happen is AutoCAD wants to line up these little X's with each other for every region that you do. And so if you're going from no sidewalk or no landscape buffer to landscape buffer, it can draw kind of funky. So it's just easier to just pull from 2 points.
Make it wider, yeah.
And then I think this is my, this is called the basic side slope cut ditch. This is how I do my 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1 slopes. Like I said, this is under basic. And like I said, there's a whole bunch of different options here. And we might get to these as we're going through the quarter models. Quarter models can get pretty complicated depending how you do it. Like just modeling some things like extruded curb, depending on how you're doing it, might not be worth it to model it with just an urban curb gutter. You might need to use your own curb. So there's also like basic curb, but generally these 4 should be what you need. The basic cuts, what is it? Basic side slope cut ditch, urban sidewalk, urban curb gutter general, and then the lane outside super. In our case, because we do not have any curb on this site with these driveways, they're just driveways, and I like to put this to the side. Oh, it just did that. That's not good. Let's anchor it to the left. There we go. So if I need it, it's right there. In our case, we just have just a standard paving section with nothing on the side. So what I usually do, just to give myself options in case someone wants a subgrade analysis, I give it different paving depths. So you can specify subgrade here. You can see that it's upgrading right in there. But let's say it's 5 on 4. for this driveway. I don't know, Pat, what did you end up using for your paving thickness?
It's an 8-inch slab, didn't we?
Not that much.
7-on-3 maybe, or
Something like that.
Might be driving about
Concrete.
that thick.
concrete, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll just keep it at 5-on-4 for now. If we need to change it, we can. Note that you can click on 2 of these to change the properties. I have both of these selected, and I can change this property, and it'll update both. In the future, I'd like to somehow incorporate these sub-assemblies or assemblies as road paving sections. That way we can just attach this drawing
You can just look at it.
and look at it, and maybe we modify how it looks like, but that way our road sections are just drawn the way they need to be, and with some polylines, touch up, but we can put all of our multi-liters and everything right on here, and that's what I'd like to do, but I haven't had a chance yet to futz with this to really get it to plot nicely.
It could at least get you, does it get you started right now, though? Do you just kind of blow it up and,
Right now, I just use the road section from another job and then modify that. So they're not even being incorporated right now. These are strictly internal. So I'm going to set these to grade one way. This driveway, I want it to slope. If I'm looking at these polylines that we drew in, and once again, this is like as if you got this set of plans from someone with red lines and you're trying to implement it. It looks like it's just flat all the way across, with then some kind of grading on the side. Probably to minimal grading right over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the slopes to these things to be 0. So here's the default slope. I'm going to set it to be 0. Right now it's set to -2, and both of them are set to -2. So depending on which side you're on, it'll change if you're doing different slopes. But for us, it's just straight and simple.
Why are you saying to 0 on the stuff?
Because
There's no crown on the driveway.
there's no crown. It's just a driveway that's just sloping with the profile.
It's not going to slope to one side or the other?
Nope,
Usually they slope to one side.
not this one. It's a small driveway. I mean, it's only, let's see, it's only 80 feet long. I mean, from here to there, that's, what, 25 feet? So water's going to flow down it one way or another. And then there's going to be also a wall in the side, which isn't shown here, but we'll see it. And there will be drains across, you'll see. So then this is a 10-foot wide driveway. So because these are half sections, I'm going to set the width to 5. But truth be told, I never set this width to the actual width of the driveway. I set it a little bit less because my width is actually variable because I'll have different returns, I'll have different kind of features on the driveway. And I want to be flexible. If this is more than the minimum width, Quarter Model freaks out. So I'll make it as smaller than whatever my minimum width is. So this is called driveway, no slope. I did change the name of this assembly to driveway, no slope, and I'm not, once again, this is the only Civil 3D object that I do not follow naming standards on, because you're going to see at one point later on, hopefully today, we're going to have a drop-down list, and you're going to see that that drop-down list can get pretty big. So if I had, like, say 40 of these, and they were all called number dash ASM dash 001 through 0040, I wouldn't know which one to pick. So I'm very specific in my labeling. So I'm going to come in here once I have this assembly. I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to create a quarter model. Let's see if, yeah, we already created one. In our case, we created a blank one before because we messed up. But I'm going to delete this one, and we're going to do it again, just so you can see it. So I'm going to click up here. There's a quarter button. or I can go in the drop-down menu, and there's a corridor button. Bunch of different ways to skin a cat. And then
That's saying,
we got number.
Just saying.
I'm just saying,
Bunch of different ways to pluck a chicken. Is that better?
why do you have to be so easy?
And then we're going to do 3-letter descriptor, COR, dash, this is our first quarter model. But we are, Erica mentioned that we should put in some kind of identifier to say, hey, this is for lot 5. And I'm going to give it a description, lot 5, corridor model. Doesn't matter what corridor style is, because we don't plot the corridor model. That's something we can look into, because you can draw sidewalks, landscape buffers, everything, and you could use the corridor model to draw all of your polylines across your road, but so far we're not doing that. And then here's our L5001. And see, once again, this is why we're very specific with our naming. I want to use the finished grade profile, but if these are using the default name, I wouldn't know which one's which. Because we renamed them, I can come in here and be like, all right, profile-finished grade. That's the one. And here is our default subassembly. That's going to be driveway no slope. This is a target surface if we decide to do any kind of daylighting. I'm just going to pick EG, but I don't believe we'll be doing any daylighting with this corridor model. And then here it says set break line and region parameters. It's just a checkmark box to ask if you want to just go into the design process. And I do, because that's why I'm here. I'm going to hit OK. This is what popped up because I pressed that checkmark box. And this is like the one and only interface to see what's going on with your corridor model. There's a lot of stuff going on. Let's see if I can make it big. Doesn't really help. But basically on the left-hand side, you have every single region per every single alignment. The name of the alignment that it's hooked up to, the name of the profile that it's using to grade it out, the assembly for the cross-section parameters, and the start and end station that you want this region to draw on, along with what's called the frequency, basically how frequently it drops tin points along the road, and various different parameters that we'll set as we go. For now, I'm going to hit OK and just see what I get. And this will pop up every time you hit this OK button. I will not press this always perform my current choice, because once you press this checkmark box, you will never get it back again. And there will be one time out of like 500 that you're going to need this checkmark box. So instead, I'm just going to hit this rebuild the corridor button. And there is our simple corridor paved through. Right now, it's at a 25-foot frequency with different, probably with like a 5-foot mid-ordinate distance along curves. And notice that if I don't have any actual, this quarter model is separate from a tin. There hasn't been a tin yet created for this guy. So just to create that while we're working, you have to make it as part of this corridor model. So I'm going to open up the corridor model with right-click corridor properties, and there's a surfaces tab where you can add a surface that is automatically linked to this corridor model. And it says create a corridor surface. It even has a different surface icon with a little roadway on the bottom right. I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to specify, this is if you wanted to specify very complicated subgrade analysis surfaces, those little X's that we saw on the assembly, that's basically what's called a code that's linked to, or a different link in the assembly. And so here I have top codes, I've got paving codes, I can't see what that says, base, sub-base, and datum. in our case, because we model to finish grade, I always pick top, and then I had to hit this plus icon to say draw the top codes. And then I add them as break lines just to make it a clean surface. And this is a feature that I would just always recommend, overhang correction. It just does a good job drawing it. Basically, it corrects any kind of funky tins in between curbs, for instance, where you have a straight half-foot vertical rise. Here I can set the surface style to propose 2 and 10, and I can change the name of this surface. So I'm not going to leave it because it's created this default name. I'm going to rename it to be FG, because that's what this is. This is the FG. Caps lock FG. Hit apply. Once again, I'm going to hit this rebuild the corridor button. And I'm going to hit OK. So now you can see it has drawn our tin. But if I recall, it put it on the wrong layer because it didn't recognize that I renamed the surface, and it created the surface before I renamed it. Basically, that's the order of operations. So I'm going to rename the layer it's on so that someone can open this drawing and not freak out and say, hey, what do I need to thaw to get this finished grade? I'm going to just rename the layer to be finished grade. So we got our finished grade. If I turn on, oh, and this is a feature with SyncPack. I don't know if that was one of the questions, is to show some of SyncPack features. Is SyncPack on in here? I think it is. If you right click, you can turn with SyncPack different properties of your surface on immediately.
Where did you do that?
I click on my surface, right click, and press surface display toggles. So I can turn on my triangles, my points,
Or turn them off?
or turn them off.
Oh, that's
Very convenient.
yeah.
One of my favorite features of SyncPack. So, but once I have my tin, you can see, let's put my tin on the bottom. Send it back. You can see that it's drawing, oh, I don't have the points turned on. You can see it's drawing points right where my corridor model is drawing its sections. And so these are basically these X's. If I back out to the assembly, correlate to these X's in my cross section. So it's going along here, and it's creating these X's all the way through. And then just because their Civil 3D surface automatic tin generating algorithm isn't perfect, it's pulling a tin straight from this point to this point, and there's some fill in here. We'll clean that up as we go. But for now, this is a good place to start. I like to turn up the frequency because generally clients are really picky with their elevations, and they want to know exactly what elevations are. So I can right-click on this once again. I'm going to right-click, hit corridor properties, and go back to this, very handy prompt here. I'm going to click on this frequency button. And what I tend to do is I tend to set tangents 5 feet and curves at like a 1 foot increment so that it'll generate these sections with my mid-ordinate distance at 0.2 and my spirals at 1. And then profile curves at 1. And then there's this, basically these are just how often do you want it to trigger a cross section. And I want it whenever there's some kind of funky curve going on, either in the alignment or in the profile or a grade break. I want it to draw it right, pretty accurately right there. Not too nuts, but just enough. And see, now you can see there's a lot more points all the way through, which is good. It means that I have a lot of information here. I don't know what this red X, oh, that's a tree, okay. Might be too much, might be not enough. I think this is, this guy's looking at it, it feels like it's a little too much for this small driveway. So I might just set it up to 2. Set all of our curve values to 2, and let's set this at an increment. Hit OK, rebuild. And see, now you can see it's half as much. So it directly is related to the frequency. So now that I've got this part of the driveway, you know, if I click on this, let's see if I can make it really apparent. PB, let's make that yellow, because yellow is really easy to see. Here's my drive. Is that, can you guys see that? The driveway on the side? Let's turn off the points and the tin. I don't need it for now. So the yellow is my driveway, but my quarter model isn't drawing to it. So the next thing I'm going to want to do with all of these assemblies, you can specify targets. Basically, the sub-assemblies can be defined as an equation targeting a polyline as a certain length, or you can even target feature lines or other road profiles to get certain target elevations. So in our case, the driveway, this is the driveway, and then this is, I think, a gravel strip or
Concrete, just pattern.
or just patterned concrete. So I'm just going to model it all the way too. I'm going to create a layer. I like to really get organized here because there's a lot of stuff that goes into this quarter model, and I want people to be able to understand what's going on here. I'm going to create a layer called Working Road Line Core Target. I'm going to set it to color 31 and set it to no plot so people don't have to see it. And I'm going to trace the outside driveway. So I think it comes all the way around here.
Is there a reason you wouldn't just like grab that line?
Yeah, just because I'm going just from a logical sequence of events, I want this polyline right here, I want to add to it as I get further and further along in my design of this driveway. So right now, when I look at this driveway, I'm seeing a lot of complicated features of this driveway in that there's a return over here, and there's a return over here, and then this is where we are connecting to the existing roadway. So for now, I'm going to hit the easy stuff. You know, for now, I'm just going to go straight across from here to here.
Yeah, my question, the reason for my question is that I have noticed in the past, depending on how tightly you're zoomed in and stuff like that, sometimes you're not necessarily following exactly what you think you're following, and so I'm wondering why you choose to draw it as opposed to grabbing a line and then editing it as...
You know, that's something that it's just workflow at that point, I think. I have found it easier to just trace. But one thing for sure is that whenever I'm tying into like topo, TO3B stuff, I generally will copy because I want it.
Because it's not a real
right.
easy arc.
Exactly, exactly. But this is a design arc, which I know is I don't think there's any like reverse curve business in here. So it comes straight across. So the next thing I'm going to do, just for this driveway, is now that we have these as the width targets, there's this little arrow here. I'm going to slide it over here. Say it's going to start right there. Because the return's going to be over here, it's going to be kind of complicated. I'm not going to worry about it right now. And so it's going to start right there. And this one is going to end right here. So now I'm going to once again go to that prompt and right click, hit quarter properties, and go into this parameter prompt. And now I'm going to edit the targets. And so you're starting to see here they have different names for the sub-assemblies. This is the name. If we could rename our sub-assemblies within the assembly to make it very apparent which one I want. And sometimes I do that, but in this case I know that there's just two, a right and a left. And here you have width targets, and here you have slope or elevation targets, which we will use today. Or, well, maybe not today, but at one point. So I'm going to set the right side, click on the right side, and I can choose alignments for this, or in my case I'm going to choose, it says feature lines, survey figures, and polylines. So I'm going to click on this because it has polylines. I'm going to select from a drawing. So the right side of this alignment is, I believe, this side right here, because it starts over here. So I'm going to click on this polyline, hit space to get OK. It's got it right there. It's listed. Hit OK. Now I'm going to pick the left side, select from drawing. Oh, I hit 0 or something, so it's not letting me select. Now I can select it. It's listed there. Notice it gave it a name. So if you're very familiar with your quarter drawing, you'll notice, you'll kind of remember what name every polyline has, but you can't find that name anywhere else other than here, conveniently. I'll hit OK, and then hit OK, and then rebuild the corridor. So now you can see we're getting really crazy here. It's got nice width set to it all the way through. And it, based upon our frequency settings, it set these points all the way across. So now I'm going to have, I'm just going to continue modeling this driveway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to model it, this half portion right here, basically. Or let's say, let's extend this arc over there. And so I'm going to click on this, and there's this Add Region button right here. And it asks me to specify, let's move this out of the way so we can see. It's asking me to specify a start station, which is right here, and an end station, which is right to the end of our region over here. It's asking me to have an assembly. It provides a name, an automatically generated name. This name is not referenced anywhere, so I don't care for it. So I hit OK, and now I go straight, it kind of walks me through the process. I go straight to the targets. So I'm going to set my right target, once again, this polyline, and now I'm going to set my left target to this side over here. Hit OK, hit OK. See, it drew that. But it didn't keep my frequency setting, so I'll have to go back and change my frequency setting. So right in here, click on this, tangents is 5. Both here, 2, 2, 2, increment 2, OK, OK, rebuild. There we go. And so let's continue all the way over, see how far we can get over here. I'm going to extend this driveway. And once again, I'm going to click on my corridor, add region, start, end. That looks good. Set my right side of the driveway. Set my left side of the driveway. Hit OK, hit OK, hit space to finish. It's doing something funky here. I'm not sure what it's doing. Maybe I used the wrong, I might have used the wrong targets. Let's just double check. So I right click, get into my parameters section. Once again, very important panel. Here's what we've just done. And I know that because there's different station regions over here. So your start station, end station, and this is right here, the last one. It even highlights it for me. See? Gonna hit targets. Well, I think my widths are set correctly, so I don't know what's going on. But we have to once again set our frequencies. This is something that I pretty much at this point can do just, it's like autopilot mode, because you have so many of these buttons to get through. And I mean, like, I'm surprised none of you guys are falling asleep yet, because this is so repetitive. It's just non-stop. So now we're going to tie in. This is where things get a little crazy here. We're going to tie in now to the existing roadway. And so what I'm going to do that, so I'm going to draw a polyline from here to there. Or actually, how did that, yeah. From here to there. And I'm going to extend this polyline to there. And I'm going to turn this into a feature line. So I'm going to create a feature line out of this. Feature line, create feature line. And I'm turning this into a feature line so that I can use it as a target. Because in addition to targeting for widths, you can target elevations. And I want this roadway to start right where this roadway is, right where it was picked up on topo. So I'm going to put this in. And there's no corridor site, so we're going to have to create a corridor site. Corridor. And there's a variety of different styles here. There's a corridor style, my favorite for corridors. Hit OK. Oh, I hit draw feature line instead of create feature. Oh, that's all right. So I'm gonna have to restart. So I click on my polyline, and I'm gonna create feature line from objects. I do not want to just draw a feature line. I want to use this polyline that I have created and turn it into a feature line. I think our corridor sites has still been created. Convenient. Let's keep our style, corridor style. And then I'm going to assign elevations from, if I hit OK, our EG. And I'm going to insert intermediate grade break points so that if there's a tin that crosses this feature line, it'll pick it up. So I hit OK. There it is. And what that did is if I look at the tins for the EG, and then I click on this feature line and click on, you can see that everywhere a tin crosses this feature line, it plopped a point. Here's a tin, there's a point. Here's a tin, there's a point, all the way through. Sometimes it misses them, so I got to add it. Most of the time it does a good job. So now that I got that, I like it where it is. Put it on its own layer. It's got its style set so it won't plot. If someone tries to plot this GQ, let's turn the tin off from the EG. It's very important that while you're working, if there's lots of people on this project, work in a manner where you expect people to be plotting at any second. Put stuff on working layers. Turn tin and points off and only have them on when you need them.
Super quick save.
Lots of super quick saving. I haven't done that. Oh, I did. See, I did it before I even talked. So now I'm going to add another region. And we're going to, this time, we're going to start right here. You'll see why in a moment. Driveway no slope. My right side is going to be this polyline. Perfect. My left side is going to be this feature line where we're tying into the existing roadway. Now it's asking me to name it because Civil 3D likes names. Everything needs to have a name. I didn't name this feature line because I know it's going to auto-name it for me and yell at me if it doesn't have one. So I'm letting it do my job for me. Gave it the name Feature 1. Perfect, I hit OK. Now here's the next part. I'm going to specify outside elevation. So I'm going to hit this, just like, kind of like the same interface before. Select from drawing. Hit left there. Hit OK. Hit OK. And see now what it did is it's cutting across through here, but also the tin, let's turn our points on. These points were pulled from this feature line. You can even note that wherever I have these elevation points, there's a tin point. So all these points came straight from the feature line. So if I do a query, let's just add a general label here just to see what we're doing. And this is another feature in Civil 3D. I don't think I've gone over this yet, is labels once you have Civil 3D objects. How I did that is I came up here in General, Add Labels. Lots of labels you can add. And I can select surfaces as one of my options. I can specify spot elevations. And here we have an existing ground elevation. So I'm going to hit Add that. Click on our EG. Let's just see if they line up. So our EG is at 90.88 right there. And now let's use a PTP, posed label. Click on our finish grade surface. Click right at that point, 90.88. Nice. That's exactly what I want. So now that I'm done here, let's turn off the tin and the point. And let's turn off the points. And let's finish this last bit right here. So I'm going to come in, click on my quarter model, add region, start to finish. Hit OK. Set my right. In this case, it's going to be right. Oh, actually, I don't think I can do that. Nope, I can't do this portion. And the reason why is because if I set my right here, let's just walk through. That'll be my right. But if I try to choose the left, what would be my left in this case? The quarter model is drawing from this red line out to the right, but it's past our point. We don't want any kind of information here. So I'll have to fill in this data later. So if I need to stop what I'm doing, I just use our second favorite button next to F1, which is escape. And I can come in here and I can delete regions.
Why is it cracking that line?
Because I didn't specify a left width.
Oh, so it was what you were just in.
Yeah.
It was trying to make it. Oh.
Yeah, and I don't want it because I don't want information right here. So I can delete regions really easily. Just click hit, delete, hit space, done. So to finish up, let's do the same thing again.
How do you do your little fillets? Or do you just not care about them?
We'll model them with feature lines, most likely. If, you know, at this detail, I think that the client would be okay with me just modeling this point right here and just not leaving that. But if it was like a larger project where you needed a curb return over there, I would put in an alignment right here with its own profile, just like what we have created over here, and have a flow line profile. That way, if you guys needed to stake something as well in the future, you can always use it for reference. It's been working pretty well with Avalon, even though there were mistakes that we made in the flow line profile. So I'm going to just finish this up, come in over here, click on this guy, add a region, In this case, my start's over here, and my end is right where it crosses. Hit OK. Set my right. I'm going to ask you guys, which,
Sabi, how far is it from the end there? From the last line you have going across,
which one's that?
the blue line going across?
This one?
Yeah, from there down to the end of your road, right there. How far is that?
Couldn't tell you, right? I'm guessing 5 feet.
Why not just put a feature line across there and call it good?
You could. I'm just showing the general approach because we will be doing that. But I wanted to get this approach down because we're going to be using this interface for parts of this driveway where the stretch is a lot longer than 5 feet. But that's a very important key point, is while you're doing this, ask yourself, is it worth it? Because this is so much time can be put in that is directly related to how much detail you want. So, you know, I'm in this case, if I wanted to, I can add this feature line, like we will over here for this curb return. We're going to add a feature line right here. And then for this curb return, we're going to add a feature line right here. Actually, it'll probably come out over here.
So you can't do that, since you made the polyline in the first place, you can't make the polyline of the whole route that you want and use.
No, I
use
can't.
one?
And here's why. Let me just delete this region. And draw a polyline for you as an example. Let's say this was our arc, our curb return. Right here. Look at the way my cross section is being drawn. It's drawn perpendicular to the alignment. So right here to here, you know, if I extend this out, it can't extend. But if I extend this out, let's say from here to here, in our case, it might not work because maybe there's a flow line for this return that is separate of this driveway. You know, our driveway cross section says it goes flat from here to here. So, you know, if I move this label, you can copy these labels around. Over there to over there, the elevation is the same. I might not want that. I might want it to flow on this return. And so I might want this point to be 91.2. So that's why usually you can't draw these returns in, and you have to model them separately. So I'm going to hit erase on here. Let's see, I'm going to extend this, just the last thing before we wrap it up. Extend this width over there, and let's just add this region so we can call this driveway done. That'd be a good stopping point. So I'm going to start, snap off. Start right there. I don't know what's happening with my O-snaps. Okay. Nice. Let's try again. Add region. There we go. Start. End. Hit OK. Here I need to specify my right width. Again. Select from drawing. Right side of this alignment. This is this polyline right here. Click on that. Hit OK. Hit OK. Oh, and we didn't create our feature line. So I'm just going to call it. I think we're on a time crunch here. I'm going to hit delete this region. We'll have to pick it up from there. All in all, you know, creating these corridor models, you have to start with the driveway profile. And so the design starts with this road profile being right where you want it. Then your cross section, and then an idea for what you want it to look like in plan. If you wanted to do preliminary stuff, you can just have a straight standard width and go all the way through. But it's all dependent on, like I said, how complicated you want it, because this little driveway with, one arc has just taken us 40 minutes to model with a quarter model. Is it worth it? Up to you. Depends on what you're doing. So I think that's it for today. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Copy.
Super save. Stop.